Boom, clap, boom, boom, clap, boom, 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 clap. Tunnel echoes whisper everything that the headlights lack. Center Creek sleeps with eyes open, pockets full and cold. Silver spoons at tables while the alleys fold.
Hudson smiles on billboards, telling stories bought and sold. But truth walks the midnight, heavy as stone and old. We trade quiet answers in the cracks the rich don't know. Hudson in the lights, but the night speaks plain. We move like low thunder, we won't be quiet again. From tunnels up to rooftops, the city's truth will reign.
Joshua keeps his watch, counting footprints in the rain.
Nehemiah holds a fever for the ledger and the stain. Ezekiel stands steady, reads the cranes and reads the page. They trace the undercity where the forgotten raise a name, while the feeders fill their coffers with the scraps of our days.
Sirens cut the patience, blazing through the air. Chains rattle like a heartbeat, a warning everywhere. Fire cast the secrets that the neon tried to hide. We pull the veil and watch the paper towns untie.
Hudson in the lights, but the night speaks plain. We rise from the tunnels, we won't be silent again. From the ashes of the quiet, the city's truth remains.
The desert outside Center Creek, California, looked dead from a distance. Dry hills stretched for miles beneath a burning sun, while cracked roads cut through abandoned neighborhoods, liquor stores, pawn shops, broken-down churches, and half-finished luxury developments that stood like monuments to greed. Dust storms rolled through the streets almost every evening, coating everything in sand and ash-colored dirt. Newcomers called the town the next big desert expansion project. The people born there called it cursed, especially the old black families, especially the Mexican families living near the train yards, especially the native families whose ancestors once disappeared into the land generations ago. Because before Center Creek became a forgotten desert town near Hemet, the entire valley belonged to Hudson Plantation, and Hudson Plantation was built on slaughter. Most people knew the official history. The plantation was supposedly a labor camp from the 1800s that housed African Americans, Mexicans, and captured native tribes forced into agricultural work during California's early territorial years. History books painted Jedediah Hudson as a wealthy rancher and businessman who helped develop the region. But hidden stories survived in whispers, stories passed down through old grandmothers and broken church sermons. Stories about people vanishing into smokehouses at night. Stories about screams coming from butcher barns. Stories about rich landowners eating strange meat during private gatherings beneath lantern light. The slaves whispered something else too, something forbidden. They believed they were descendants of the scattered tribes of Israel, a broken people divided among nations. African slaves, Mexican captives, and native tribes all bound together through suffering and exile. Jedediah Hudson mocked them for it, then butchered them anyway. The old plantation disappeared long ago beneath concrete, projects, apartment buildings, and modern construction. But evil did not disappear with it. It evolved. And in Center Creek, evil still fed. Nehemiah Davis returned to Center Creek after 7 years away because his younger cousin Malik disappeared. No warning, no witnesses, no body. The police barely investigated. Another missing black teenager from the east side. Another statistic. Nehemiah sat in his car outside his grandmother's house, watching the evening sun bleed red across the desert horizon, while helicopters flew toward the rich side of town. The neighborhood looked worse than he remembered. Buildings abandoned, homeless camps spreading beneath overpasses, new expensive developments rising directly beside poverty-stricken blocks. Center Creek looked divided against itself, like two different worlds fighting over the same graveyard. His grandmother opened the front door before he even knocked. She hugged him tightly without smiling. "They taking folks again," she whispered. Nehemiah frowned. Again. That word sat heavy in his chest. Inside the house, old photographs lined the walls beside framed scriptures and faded family portraits. His grandmother handed him a worn journal wrapped in cloth. "This belonged to your great-great-grandfather," she said. "He escaped Hudson Plantation." Nehemiah opened it carefully. Inside were drawings of underground tunnels, butcher tables, and names written beside strange Hebrew symbols. Then one sentence stopped him cold. "They feed the powerful with our flesh." A week later, Joshua Stevens arrived in Center Creek carrying rage in his bones. Puerto Rican, sharp-tongued, tattooed, restless. His younger sister Elena disappeared while filming a documentary about homeless vanishings around Center Creek. Before she vanished, she mailed Joshua a flash drive with one sentence written across the envelope. "The Hudsons are still doing it." Joshua spent days retracing her investigation through homeless encampments, abandoned neighborhoods, and city records offices. Every trail pointed back toward Hudson redevelopment properties owned by Elias Hudson, the last surviving descendant of Jedediah Hudson himself. Elias appeared everywhere in town: billboards, commercials, political fundraisers. He presented himself as Center Creek's savior, a wealthy businessman bringing life back into forgotten neighborhoods. But Joshua noticed something disturbing. Most redevelopment zones were areas where people disappeared. Meanwhile, Ezekiel Todd entered Center Creek from the east, driving an old black truck covered in desert dust. Former Marine, Haitian American, quiet as death itself. He came searching for his Aunt Murray, a traveling nurse who vanished after working temporary medical contracts in Center Creek. Her final voicemail sounded terrified. "They're harvesting people," she whispered through static. "There's something beneath this town." Then screaming. Then silence. The three men met by accident inside St. Gideon's Church after separately investigating the same disappearances. The church stood near the oldest part of Center Creek, where remnants of Hudson Plantation once existed. The pastor, an elderly man named Reverend Carter, secretly guided them into the basement beneath loose wooden boards hidden under a rug. There they discovered records untouched for over a century. Slave journals, maps, missing person lists, drawings of tunnels running beneath the plantation. The journals described horrifying acts committed by Jedediah Hudson during drought years when livestock became scarce. Slaves who rebelled or attempted escape were dragged into underground butcher rooms and slaughtered like cattle. Their meat was smoked, preserved, and sold secretly to wealthy landowners through California territory. The practice became tradition, an inheritance. One journal entry read, "Hudson says consuming us makes them rulers forever." Another read, "We are Israel scattered among nations. They fear what we remember." Joshua stared at the pages in horror. Nehemiah felt anger boiling inside him. But Ezekiel noticed something worse. Fresh footprints. Someone else had been in the basement recently. Then the church lights shut off. Heavy footsteps echoed overhead. Gunshots exploded through the sanctuary above them. The three men barely escaped through hidden tunnels beneath the church, while masked gunmen stormed the building searching for the journals. That was the moment they understood the truth. The disappearances weren't random. Someone was protecting the secret. The tunnels beneath Center Creek stretched for miles under the city like veins beneath skin. Some tunnels dated back to the plantation era, while others were modernized with steel doors, security cameras, generators, and industrial refrigeration systems. Inside one underground facility, they found enough evidence to destroy the city forever. Freezers packed with human remains, industrial meat processing equipment, medical tables stained black with dried blood, missing person belongings sorted into bins, and shipment crates labeled for luxury restaurants and private catering services throughout California. Joshua nearly collapsed. Nehemiah clenched his fist so tightly blood dripped from his palms. Ezekiel silently loaded his rifle, because deeper inside the facility they heard voices, laughing, eating. The men hid behind plastic curtains overlooking a massive underground dining hall beneath the old plantation ruins. Politicians, businessmen, judges, developers, police officers, all gathered together, eating roasted meat served on silver platters beneath portraits of Jedediah Hudson. At the center sat Elias Hudson himself, beside Center Creek's mayor, Clarence Voss. Mayor Voss preached about rebuilding the town publicly while secretly helping Elias abduct vulnerable people from poor neighborhoods, foster homes, homeless camps, and migrant communities. The rich side of Center Creek was literally feeding off the poor. Joshua secretly recorded everything. But before they could escape, alarms blared throughout the tunnels. The hunt began instantly. Mercenaries flooded the underground corridors armed with assault rifles and shotguns. The tunnels became a war zone filled with gunfire, blood, screaming, and collapsing walls. Ezekiel moved through the darkness like a ghost trained for violence. Years in the Marines turned him into something terrifying inside close-quarters combat. He snapped bones, emptied magazines into attackers, and fought through the tunnels with cold precision. Joshua hacked security systems while uploading footage online. Nehemiah hunted Elias Hudson. The deeper Nehemiah traveled beneath the plantation ruins, the older the tunnels became. Brick walls turned into ancient stone corridors stained with centuries of blood. Rusted hooks still hung from ceilings. Human bones remained buried beneath dirt floors. Then he found the original slaughterhouse, Jedediah Hudson's butcher room. The walls were covered in names scratched by slaves before death, Hebrew symbols, prayers, warnings, and standing in the center of the room was Elias Hudson, holding a rusted cleaver passed down through generations. "You should thank us," Elias said calmly. "Your people built this country. Your flesh fed empires." Nehemiah attacked him instantly. The fight became savage. Two men crashing through blood-stained tables and ancient butcher equipment, while fire spread through the collapsing tunnels around them. Elias fought like a madman possessed by generations of evil. But Nehemiah fought for every missing child, every murdered family, every forgotten slave buried beneath Center Creek. Finally, Nehemiah drove Elias backward into an industrial meat grinder while flames consumed the room. Elias screamed as the machine pulled him inward. Then silence. The underground plantation exploded into fire. Above ground, Joshua's uploaded footage spread across the internet before authorities could stop it. The world watched in horror as evidence exposed Center Creek's secret network of trafficking, murder, and cannibalism connected to powerful elites throughout California. Riots erupted. Citizens dragged Mayor Voss from his vehicle as police departments collapsed into chaos. Excavation crews later uncovered mass graves beneath luxury developments all across Center Creek. Hundreds of bodies. The Hudson Empire finally burned, but not completely. Months later, Nehemiah, Joshua, and Ezekiel met again outside the ruins of St. Gideon's Church. The town looked broken, but alive for the first time in generations. Joshua placed a folder on the table. Inside were photographs from Louisiana, Georgia, and Texas. Old plantation families, missing persons, underground facilities, the same symbols, the same operations. Ezekiel looked toward the desert horizon. "So it never stopped," he said quietly. Nehemiah stared at the photographs. "No," he answered. "It spread." Far away from Center Creek, hidden beneath another wealthy American town, smoke rose from another underground slaughterhouse, and somewhere in the darkness, another powerful family prepared dinner.